All right, we are recording. Yo, what's up? Welcome to youtube.com/BlessingJr and twitch.tv/BlessingJr. I'm Blessing. I'm joined by the one and only Game Honestus, aka Janet Garcia.
Yo, what's good? Excited to be back.
Yeah, exciting to have you. I love that you say excited to be back, as if I don't think I've had you on my YouTube channel, because I'm not sure if I've had anybody on my YouTube channel. I've barely had me on my YouTube channel. But I have you here because I want to talk about Kendrick Lamar, GNX. Last week, it came out. As I was listening to it, I had two things happen last week. One, me and you did the Life is Strange spoiler cast for the latest Life is Strange game, and it went up, and I was like, damn, I don't talk to Janet on podcasts enough anymore now that PS I Love You isn't a thing. And so I missed doing one-on-one podcasts with Janet. But then also, as I was listening to GNX, I was like, I got to talk about this. And so it was kind of a perfect storm of, oh, wait, I have a Twitch channel, I have a YouTube channel, and I have Janet Garcia, who is accessible to me via text or call or whatever. And so here we are. We're going to talk about some Kendrick Lamar GNX.
Yeah, excited to get into it.
I mean, let's get right into it then. Like, GNX, actually, first of all, Janet, like, what's your Kendrick Lamar history / vibe on him? Are you a Kendrick fan?
Yeah, I'm a Kendrick fan. I might even say I'm a Kendrick stan. I gotta be honest. Obviously, that doesn't mean that I'm incapable of doing criticism, which I think is sometimes the association with standum. But yeah, I'm a huge Kendrick fan. Association. I think I might have hit just about everything. I got to Section 80 pretty late, and I still feel like I haven't dabbled in that too much. But To Be a Butterfly is probably one of my favorite albums of all time. I still think that that's his best album. I think I'm gonna die on it. Yeah, To Be a Butterfly.
I agree.
I think time's gonna continue on, and I'm still gonna be like hip hip. I'm gonna be out there with To Be a Butterfly. It's such a great album. Good Kid, Mad City. Admittedly, it took me a while to grow on that album. It was not an initial hit for me. Once I got into it, though, I stayed with it. Damn, I thought was super fun. Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, that one didn't hit for me that much. That one had to grow on me as well. I kind of, by then I was already, a big Kendrick fan. But I think with that album, in terms of listening to it on a more casual level, I felt like it wasn't as fun of a listen. Not that everything needs to be fun all the time. But that's kind of like back to To Be a Butterfly. I felt like that was like the perfect combo, like a really strong combo of really listenable, but also really dense thematically. And I felt like Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers felt a little bit too wide in scope at times.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
But the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, I'm kind of sleeping on this album a little bit. So that album definitely has grown on me quite a bit. And then that brings us to GNX. And I guess too, I want to shout out that I did see him live, which was awesome. I saw him live when he toured for To Be a Butterfly back when he was in much, much, much smaller venues. Like, he was like really not even that far. Like, there was I think it was like a venue that was so small that there was barely any seats, if there were seats as an option. It was like, think about the, not a perfect one-to-one, because I wasn't there with you when you saw Lupe tour with The Cool.
Yeah.
But like that kind of size venue.
No way,
like
really?
Yeah, it was like a small venue. I have to look up.
That's actually kind of surprising for To Be a Butterfly.
I have to look up what the venue was, but yeah, because I know you saw him, I think, right after that, like his next tour, and he was like in a much larger venue.
Oh, I saw him probably a few tours after, because I saw him post Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, and he was at the Oakland Arena.
Yeah,
like that was a jam-packed tour with like a lot of production, and it's one of those ones where like I had heard stories about Kendrick Lamar performing, and I heard that like early on he wasn't as great. Like I had heard people complain about like his early career and like his live performance not living up to what you'd think it would. But like by the time I got around to seeing him, Mr. Morale, that tour was fucking insane. Where you had the dancers, you had the projection, you had like a kind of a storyline that was carrying everything through. But like I'm kind of similar to you as far as my history with Kendrick, right? Like I would probably describe myself as a stan. He's never been my number one in my top 5, but I think that's maybe have changed this year. Just with like everything that's gone on and like the clear gap that he's created between himself and everybody else over the course of like this entire year. Like Kendrick Lamar for me, as I've gone back and even listened to his albums, it's funny, like Mr. Morale for me is one that I regard now as like one of maybe the most important rap albums to come out. Like it's tough to compare his discography, because Kendrick Lamar is like one of those artists that I feel like everything he does is a masterpiece in kind of a different way.
Mm-hmm.
To Pimp a Butterfly, probably my favorite Kendrick album, and still like probably one of the best rap albums I've ever heard. Good Kid, Mad City is like a classic to me. Like when that came out, that was, oh man, I think that was like my first or second year in college, and like
Yeah.
it kind of came out of nowhere for me. Like I don't think it was that much before that I think I had gotten into Kendrick and was listening to Section 80 or whatever. And so like by the time that hit, it really hit for me. And it was one of those ones where I was like, oh damn, like this is a level of almost underground mainstream rap in a way. Like it has underground sound to it, but it has like mainstream appeal to it. And I don't know, I feel like I felt a shift in rap culture. God, my lights are flashing over here. I feel like I felt a shift in rap culture when Good Kid, Mad City came out. I felt like experiencing classic in real time. But yeah, love Good Kid. Absolutely love To Pimp a Butterfly. Damn was actually the one that took a little bit for it to grow on me a bit. I liked it from first listen, but it never, I think coming off of T-Pab, I had a level of expectation that was like, oh, I want another masterpiece. And I don't think Damn reaches the levels of To Pimp a Butterfly.
Yeah, I agree.
But like when I go back to Damn, I'm like, wait a second. He does have, I think, some of his best songs on this album. I think Feel on that album is one of his best songs. I think Fear on that album is also one of his best songs. And then also Duckworth is like such a good Kendrick song from like a production and storytelling perspective. But yeah, you jump forward to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, even though I gotta shout out the Black Panther album that I love as well.
Yeah, that was good.
That was like my album of the year when that came out, and that came out in like a pretty strong year of albums. But I fucking love that Black Panther album. But
Man, Black Panther gave us so much. Like it's crazy.
God, it really did. But yeah, Mr. Morale. When I go back and listen to the album, I think that's like the only Kendrick album that legitimately makes me emotional to the point where like I could shed tears listening to it. Like it is, I think, so emotionally aware of like what it's talking about. Of course, there's the whole therapy angle to it, but I think it's very much like a step forward in what like the kind of stories you can tell in rap music, the kind of subject matter that you can tackle in rap music, as far as things like Kendrick having family members that, you know, were he rapped about his relative that was like part of the trans community, and like, you know, rapped about cycles of abuse within his family and how like that has affected him. Like there's like just a lot of
The relationship fight song was like one of the first ones that people were like, whoa,
Yeah.
like this is like wild stuff going on.
There's like a lot of really good subject matter there that he touches on in like very mature and very, I think, insightful ways that I think is very powerful and like very therapeutic. And I look back, I don't think that album has yet to have gotten the flowers that it deserves. I know people love it because it's Kendrick and people are like, are going to say 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10, whatever. Right. But like, I think it's going to be years before people are like, wait, actually Mr. Morale is like a top 2 or top 3 Kendrick album. But that does bring us now to GNX.
Real quick before I
Yeah.
get into that, I do want to shout out more. I found the details of the show I went to. So by then he was performing arenas. He apparently had just did an arena in Chicago. I'm not sure which one, or like, you know, outskirts of town. I'm not really sure.
Mhm.
But he came through to do a more intimate show at the Riviera Theater. If you know, you know. It's a 2,500 capacity theater. So it was really small, really intimate. And he was backed with a 4-piece band.
Oh my
I thought it was
God.
awesome. I don't remember a lot of like, admittedly, it's like I don't have that performance burned into my mind necessarily, but like I remember being like very satisfied having seen that. And I actually think, oddly enough, even though I've been listening to hip hop my whole life, like it's the first genre of music I ever listened to, like from when I was 5, and from like 5 years old to like 12 or 13, it's the only genre I listen to, minus I guess like a little bit of R&B
Mhm.
and like some pop, depending on how you shade it or flavor it, because I was big into like Alicia Keys and stuff like that. But that was the first concert I think I've gone to at all for hip hop. I haven't seen a lot of hip hop performances live, and I do think, to your point of Kendrick's trajectory as a performer, it is especially hard to do a good hip hop performance. You have to have a lot of vocal control, and also historically, it's not exactly the same kind of style. So it's like, okay, well, what you're not doing crazy like vocal flips. You're not necessarily doing a lot with the instrumentation in terms of live like band stuff. I mean, you can bring in stuff, but I do think not every rapper can do a good performance.
Mhm.
And I think Kendrick, has presumably only gotten better over time. And we saw, we watched the Pop Out, not live, but when he did that, I thought that show was really strong as well. So yeah, we'll see. I'm guessing prices are going to be going up and up
dude, here's
with
the
all
thing.
of this. So I'm a little scared. I don't know if I can catch the door, but
I'm so excited for whatever this tour looks like, because I'm sure we'll get into it as we talk about it. This tour is going to be so different from the Mr. Morale one. Like you mentioned, you didn't go to the Mr. Morale one. You said you only went to the T-Pap one. Mr. Morale was such a production, and like it was choreography. It was every step is accounted for, right? It was, oh, y'all practiced your asses off and like prepared this performance. Like this is highly produced. GNX, I don't think is going to be that, because GNX is a way different album, right? Like it is, the beats are bouncy. It feels way more party. It is very LA. Like I don't know if I expect the at least the style of production that we got out of the Mr. Morale tour. In fact, for this, like I kind of hope that there's like just not as much production. Like I want him to come out here and just throw a party, right? Like all I want is a DJ, Kendrick, and like a crowd of people that are like, yeah, let's fucking go, because that's the kind of album this is. Janet, how much of this album would you say you've listened to? I know you've listened to all the songs, but like I guess how many listens have you given to it, would you say? And like what are your thoughts on the album so far?
Listens, I really was not keeping count. I have to say I've done front to back probably at least like 8 or 9 times. I wanted to get in more, but like I have to work sometimes, so it's like I can't keep listening to it. But and honestly, I go front to back on it a lot when I listen to it. It's a very easy listen, despite still having like plenty of density. I think you bring up Good Kid, Mad City, and how that feels underground mainstream. This kind of feels like that too. This also kind of, I'm curious what you think. I'll finish like my top overall thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth into the details. If you think this is an album or a mixtape, because a lot of people are like, this feels like a mix. So anyway, but so we'll get into that for sure. But yeah, it's so fun. I love this era for Kendrick. It's been really cool to see him still maintain a strong command of vision and theme and intricate instrumentation and metaphor, but also like kind of coming out and like not doing those things sometimes, but using that to like strengthen the other aspects. I think a big part of this, obviously like what predated this was the Kendrick Drake beef and all of those like tracks that dropped, and Not Like Us changed the universe. Like that song's not on this album. So it's like, whoa, like, oh, that was like one of the first surprises. I was like, oh, that Not Like Us is not on this. And I'm like, well, what is on? And there is Squabble Up, which was like teased on the Not Like Us music video. But anyway, I'm kind of getting mad at myself. I love this album. It instantly hit for me. And even though I do think Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers probably in a lot of ways has more artistry to it, like it might be a better album in some senses, I love this. This is much more like my style, and I think it's a nice blend between the more conceptual stuff that Kendrick does with just more, you want to hear a good ass song? It's like, yeah. And it's like, but there's still the other stuff there too. There's Reincarnated and that theme kind of running through, and the sort of Spanish refrains that come in and out of different tracks that sort of create through line through the album. So I feel like it is kind of a best of both worlds if you're someone that loves conceptual Kendrick but also loves more like damn Kendrick, and it's sort of those living in harmony together. And this album kind of feels like a little homecoming for Kendrick, I think, in a lot of ways. People have talked a bunch about the different features as well, kind of adding to that, and this being like, not that Kendrick's not an LAer because he's a West Coast rapper, but it's just like really emphasizing that, and like you mentioned, this being kind of a celebration of LA in so many ways. But what about you? How many listens in are you?
Oh my
and
God.
What are your high level thoughts on this record?
I've listened to this album so much, like you, I've not counted it, but it's been on nonstop for me. I even put it on. I was playing Magic last night with friends, and I was like, "You guys listen to the new Kendrick album yet?" And they're like, "No, we've not heard it." And I was like, "All right, I'm gonna put it on speaker while we play Magic." Like this is an album that I've had to keep on just throughout my days since it's been out, just because like I think sonically, this is the most immediate attachment I've had to a Kendrick album just from like listening to it, right? Not talking about the lyrics, not talking about like the subject matter, just sonically how good the music sounds to listen to. already I think this is on the much stronger side of Kendrick, if not maybe the strongest side. Like, I just love the production. I love the delivery. I love the different voices that he's using here. I think the way I would describe it is I think this album is a very much needed album for from Kendrick. Um, I think there's been the built up expectation of, like you mentioned, concepts and I think a lot of construction in terms of, hey, To Pimp Butterfly has this through line of it being this poem that Kendrick is sharing with Tupac, and he is touching on things like his depression. He's touching on, things like the state of the world and like his trip to Africa and how that has like impacted the way he views life and views the our country and all this stuff, right? You hop to Damn, and Damn also has like this kind of through line to it, and there's the whole concept of listening to it from front to back, or being able to listen to it in reverse, and like there's that through line there. Mr. Morale has that kind of therapy through line of Kendrick, exploring himself and looking inward and kind of looking at the things that have been wrong with him, whether it's sex addiction or whether it is whatever it is, right? Like, I think you have come to expect now from Kendrick a really like layered and a really like almost like a perfectly constructed album, and I love how much this album doesn't feel like that but still has a lot of those elements in it. And I think because it feels like it's leaning off of being that super deep, super layered, super, like big brain Kendrick type of album, you then get to explore something that I don't think Kendrick has really had, which is songs that just have a lot of bounce to them and have like a lot of flavor to them. I was having a conversation. I think I was talking about it like on one of my previous streams, but then I was talking to friends about it afterwards. I think for a lot of Kendrick's, for his like discography, for his albums, and his singles especially, he's not had like a Lil Jon Get Low, right? Like, he doesn't have anything where I'm at a club and I'm like, what Kendrick song is gonna play right now that's gonna shut the whole place down? I don't think Kendrick has had a song like that until really Not Like Us. Like, and I'd even challenge you or people in chat to like throw songs out, because like I know there's All Right, but it's like All Right can come on in the club, I guess, but it's not like, that's not a Get Low, right? That's not
comes on more at like a rally.
Exactly.
Like, when I kind of hear
like All Right is like a protest song.
It is a hype song. Yes.
Swimming Pools can come on and like that's chill. Humble can come on and it's like, okay, yeah, like Humble, we like Humble, but when Not Like Us comes on in a club now, like that's gonna shut the place down. When Squabble Up comes on in a club, I feel like the songs off of this album and the songs that are I guess embodied in the energy of this album have way more potential to like have that kind of placement for Kendrick, and I think that's huge. I think he's needed that. We'll get into like I think some of the deeper elements, and like you mentioned Reincarnated, and I really want to talk about that song. But from the top level, fucking love this album. I think it's incredible. I think it's honestly, in my week of listening to it so far, right now I'm thinking it's one of his best albums.
Yeah, I would agree with that. This was the album where I'm glad we had some time with Cornucopia. And I'm going back to Cornucopia for sure. I love that album as well. But I was like, that was my kind of constant repeat album. And then I just like schmooshed that over to the side. And I've like added this in, and I've been listening to it pretty much nonstop. I think too, talking about this album in the context of Kendrick's career and where he's at, I think so much of this album, besides having a lot of fun and very danceable tracks, it also is a record where you really feel the weight of like where Kendrick is in the industry. And, people have been having like the GOAT conversation about Kendrick for quite a while now. And it's not that he has now officially been crowned by society to be like the greatest of all time necessarily, but I think he is an icon in a different way than he was before, after Not Like Us, him getting the Super Bowl and everything. I know the Super Bowl hasn't happened yet, but and I think that's why it was such like a strong opening to have Whacked Out Murals and talking about how with all of that and all this love comes this hatred that he also gets from people, a coldness that he feels from his peers. And then I think he spends a lot of the album as well sort of exploring like, who is he as a musician, who are musicians to society, and who does he want to be as a person, and the ways that he's, angry or not angry or kind of managing this stuff. And I think too, like, Whacked Out Murals is kind of a wild opening too, because Do you also live in fear that Kendrick's gonna like call you out on something?
Dude, here's the thing.
Kendrick, don't watch my streams.
I live in fear.
Final Fantasy Rebirth, and he's gonna be like talking smack
Dude,
about
I live in fear that
so
like
scared.
Kendrick's gonna crash out in a way where we're like, all right, he's gone too far. Because I feel like he's a man that like, I don't know. Throughout the years, I've always viewed Kendrick as like, oh, he seems chill, he seems relaxed, he seems laid back. This album and like, I mean, this year really has been like an eye opener of, oh man, he's a crash out king. Like this guy, I'm listening to Whacked Out Murals and like, you know, there was a meme I saw earlier that was like talking about Kendrick's albums, and it was like, you know, Section 80 was Kendrick being like, man, my hood is fucked up. Good Kid, Mad City is Kendrick being like, my city's fucked up. Tippin' Butterfly is like Kendrick saying, oh man, my country's fucked up. Damn is him saying, oh, the world is fucked up. Mr. Morale is him being like, oh, I'm fucked up. And GNX is him saying, oh, y'all got me fucked up. Like he is.
That's
like,
so funny.
Yeah.
And so accurate.
And like it's the thing where I read through some of these lyrics and I'm like, damn, like he is real. The way he calls out Lil Wayne, right? Like I think my success got Lil Wayne mad or whatever he says, right? Like, and he's somebody who back in the day, like he was a big Lil Wayne fan. Like a lot of people don't know that he had like a Lil Wayne mixtape called C4 where he rapped over Lil Wayne beats. So like to Kendrick kind of circle around and be like, damn, like I got Lil Wayne mad. Fucking Snoop Dogg is out here quote tweeting Taylor Made freestyle. I hope it was the edibles. Like,
and then Snoop tweeted about like, oh, it was the edible, which is also like wild.
Yeah.
I think the that line you point to, which I copy and pasted like all the lyrics to the whole album into a Google Doc so I could easily reference them. But yeah, the used to bump the car at 3. I held my really chain proud. Irony, I think my hard work let Lil Wayne down. I think that was the first. That's in verse 2 of the track, and that was probably one of the first things where, especially on a first listen, it's kind of hard to like, unless you're like sitting and really doing a specific listen, which I'm curious if you do this for albums very much. For me, I kind of just let it ride. I'm like, okay, like sometimes I'll do a hard listen, but usually it's just playing. So on a casual first listen, that was like one of the first lines of the album where I was like, oh shit, like this is going, you know, like he's really going to be kind of talking really candidly about everything that happened.
Yeah.
Nas is really the one who came up on this album.
Yeah.
I know Nas slept good that night that GNX came out.
He was like, thank God I congratulated him.
Yeah. So that's been really interesting to see.
I mean, we can tackle this in multiple ways because I do have notes on each song, so we can go by song, or we can just like hop around of what we want to talk about. Because I do want to bring up the mixtape theory because I've been seeing this theory thrown around a lot online of like, oh, he has a second album coming, maybe like all this stuff. But
also because of the Heart Part 6 is really where the theory comes. I know someone in chat was like, oh, like just because Kendrick's not super conceptual the whole album, you think it's like not like can't be his regular album. It's just because of the Heart Part 6 is really, I think, to me, the thing that flags it as a mixtape because he only does those on mixtapes.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why I'm like, oh, well, he has a Heart Part 6 here, and then obviously he's been teasing a potential double disc as well. From
when
that
you go
video
through. When you go through the hearts, right? I don't know how part 1 dropped. I assume maybe that was like part of some either mixtape or maybe that was just like a Lucy that he dropped. Heart Part 2 I know was part of Overly Dedicated, which was a mixtape. And then since then, right, like they'll most of the time precurse an album. And so like Heart Part 3 was for Good Kid. Heart Part 4 I believe was Damn. Heart Part 5 was Mr. Morale, and now we have Heart Part 6 on the album. For me, I don't expect another like an album to come after this, right? I think this is the album. I think at most, my prediction at most, I could be wrong. My prediction is at most we get a deluxe, and I think the deluxe ends up having Not Like Us and maybe a few more songs. But this for me, this feels like an album. I almost feel like him dropping.
It just feels like an album. I'm not trying to say that for like, oh, it just feels unlike. But I think the Heart Part 6 is really what makes me think this is not an official album. My
thought on Heart Part 6. Because, like, I have a few thoughts on Heart Part 6. One, I think Heart Part 2 being on Overly Dedicated, even though I know that is a mixtape, but, like, part of that, I think, establishes the trend of, like, inconsistency with the hearts, right? Where it's like, okay, sometimes they're on a project, other times, most of the time, they're not on a project. I also think the Drake element to Heart Part 6 throws a wrinkle of, did Kendrick? I don't think Kendrick would want to drop a standalone Heart Part 6 because then that gets like in the conversation of, oh, but like Drake already dropped it. I think it's way easier to drop it as part of the album, as opposed to like trying to drop it to then promote an album, because I think when you try to release just the Heart Part 6, you then get into this weird place of people like bringing in the Drake thing to it, and that kind of soils the whole thing. So I think it's easier for him to sneak in a Heart Part 6. And then my third thing to it is that I think this Heart Part 6 song on the album, I don't think this is a song you drop before an album. Like the other hearts have all been like tone setters, and they've been like almost like a commentary on where Kendrick's like mindset is at going into the album. This Heart Part 6 is him telling the story of like what went down with him and Black Hippie and like kind of his come up. And one, it doesn't really tee up the sound of the album, and then also I just don't think it's like it would be an exciting single to drop before the album, which is why I think you just put it on here as part of like an album cut, or as an album cut, I should say.
Maybe. I don't know. What do you think of the theory of the double disc album coming?
Where does that come from? Because I think the thing I saw,
the music video,
is that there are two GNXs, right?
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
So that's where I got it from. Is like, when, remember the day he released the album, like 5 minutes before the album, he had like a teaser that like had a song that didn't make the album.
Right, that wasn't on the album. Yeah.
And in that teaser, there are two cars. So people are like, oh, two GNXs, like maybe it's a double album. I didn't see the Squabble Up thing.
Yeah, there is a music video dropped for Squabble Up, and this honestly all like I cannot open my third eye and see all like the references to everything. I'm just like, I just kind of watching stuff. What's good, like I cannot take credit for this. This is I follow a content creator on TikTok whose handle is Pablo the Don, and they do, I think, exclusively music content. I'm not sure if they do other culture stuff, but they and I'm sure other creators have broken down some of the references. So like there's a reference to Isaac Hayes' album, Black Moses, which is a double disc album. There's Nate Dogg's G-Funk reference, which is a double disc album. The whole set is based on a set that was in like the Roots' music video for their double album. And then I think there's also maybe an All Eyes on Me reference in there from Tupac's double album. So it's like, and then then there's some other like things of people like, oh, if you look at the board and like whatever. And I'm like, okay, I can't go full Swiftian on this, but I don't know. I'm happy with what we have, but that'd be pretty wild. How much music does this man have?
That's my thing. Is
scared of Kendrick.
That's my thing. Is my beef with it. My beef with it is two things. One, we do this every Kendrick album. Every Kendrick album is a double album. Like every Kendrick album, people are like, "Oh, he's dropping." Do you remember when Damn came out? And like, there's this whole theory around Nation. Like people thought that there was gonna be another album named Nation because it would be Damn Nation. All one word.
I didn't hear about that. That's so funny.
Everybody was like, "Oh, he's gonna drop Nation," and then guess what? He didn't drop it. Right? Like I feel like everybody just tends to want more Kendrick music. It's like in the game developer thing where like, a developer will drop a game and people will be like, oh, what do you think they're working on for their next game? And they're like, motherfuckers, we just worked 5 years on this game. Enjoy it while it's here. So I refuse to believe it until I see it, I guess, is my thing, right? And my other thing with it too is that I do think that GNX is so strong that like I don't want another album to come through and then like take the air out of it. I think if he drops, because I think the theory is that he'll drop something before the Super Bowl, which I think could make sense business wise. I'm surprised he dropped this album so early. I thought he was going to drop it maybe Super Bowl week. But I could see the business potential of dropping another album in a couple months or maybe next month or whatever. But I just don't want anything to take out the air of GNX. I don't want GNX to get lost in the shuffle of, oh, now Kendrick has another 12 songs and like now it's just a bunch of music.
Even more, because it'd be a double disc. So it'd be like really lengthy.
I guess if it's GNX, if he calls it GNX 2 or something, or GNX Part 2.
And you just like but then that's not really a double disc. That's like putting two albums next to each other. I don't know. And that's the theory.
Wait, define a double disc.
A double disc is an album that consists of two CDs, two discs, if you will, back in the day. For the kids listening, the music used to be on a physical object. Yeah.
Isn't Mr. Morale a double disc? Like when you go on Spotify, it's divided by just one disc. If you go on Spotify on desktop specifically, not in the phone, on desktop, it's divided to two discs.
I guess. I don't know. I never thought about that aspect because I don't know. Maybe on my Spotify it wasn't I only was on my phone, so I didn't know.
It was a jump scare to me because I think one day I just like listened to Mr. Morale on desktop and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, wait, when was this double disc? Like it's not even it's weirdly not formatted like one. I guess there is a clear turning point in that album midway through. So I understand why you have the disc 1, disc 2 there.
The reason it's not a double disc to me is that shoot, I got to double now. I'm like getting messed up on my own stuff because I'm thinking I think when you have a double disc, this is like such a dumb conversation in a way, but I'm kind of glad we're having it. It's like it needs to be like 1 through something and then 1 through something again, right? It's like you continue the number. Do you continue the number? It's been forever since I've like listened to
here's
a
the
double
thing.
disc album.
On Spotify, I think he does like start over the numbers.
No, you don't necessarily. Well, actually, do you? Let me look at All Eyes on Me. What's the All Eyes on Me track list like?
Yes, people in chat are saying on Spotify it's 1 through 9 and then 1 through 9. Yeah, so he does start over the numbers. It is a double disc.
I don't know, Isaiah. If you're listening, I think we have the vinyl of it. I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say, have you not opened the vinyl? Bust open the vinyl,
no,
see
I
what's
have,
up.
But I'm not reading through the stuff. I just take the stuff out.
How many discs are in that vinyl?
That's way different because vinyl can be. I mean, I have stuff that's like 1 album and it's on like 4. It's on like 2 different things.
That's
on
fair.
each side. But I agree with you though. I kind of hope that stuff gets spaced out a little bit more because I'm enjoying our time with GNX and I'm like, I don't know. I'm even more excited now for the Super Bowl because I'm like curious what he's gonna do. Here we go. All right. It says 2 disc set, 180 gram vinyl. Let's see, what do we got here? Do we have the double disc all along? And it didn't matter.
What if I told you that actually it's a triple disc because Heart Part 5 or whatever is counted as disc 3 on the album?
It does say disc 1.
There you go.
Disc 2.
There you go.
So, if you want a double disc from Kendrick, it's actually ready now. So, enjoy.
Now, chat, let me know if are the albums divided up into Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. Are those two different? Are those the 2 different discs, or is it just disc 1, disc 2? Am I doing too much with that?
They're labeled just the same, Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers.
Okay, good.
Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. So
that would piss me off if they were different.
And they are 1 through 9 and 1 through 9 on each.
Well, so Emmett in chat is saying
bad.
Actually yes.
Oh,
Emmett, explain.
Okay, here's what I'm learning. There's someone is having some wild inconsistencies then, because why is there like 8 different answers to the same question on here?
Yeah, Brandon also says, yep, they are. It's volume 1 and volume 2.
They didn't do that on the. I don't know who did this pressing, but also not gonna lie,
I'm with you, Janet.
Pressing's a little light here. This is all I get for the physical. I mean, I didn't buy it, but if I did, it'd be a little bit pressed about it. But yeah, okay. Other track, like, what do we want to do?
So I'll ask you like
track by track. You want to jump around?
Let's jump around. What's your favorite track on the album?
Okay, TV Off.
Fuck yeah, dude. TV Off goes.
It's my favorite track,
hard.
And I think I was trying to make a list before we sat down to record of my favorite songs, like ranked in order from like most loved to least, and then best. Because I do think those are pretty much always different in kind of any medium. And maybe I'm being basic, but I have TV Off as also best track. I love this song.
Interesting.
I feel like it's not as artsy of an answer, but I think this song has such an electric energy to it. That yeah, I love this track. It's also like it's got also so many like iconic moments from it. From like I think the chorus is incredible. I think the production's really strong. We got the mustard yell. I think we also have this is also where we have the crazy, scary, spooky, hilarious outro. Like
yeah,
this song is one of the most exciting things to happen to me this year. But what about you? Where do you land with TV Off, or what's your favorite track?
I love TV Off. I think it's fantastic. It's definitely one of those ones where it's taken off, right? Like I think it's one of those songs that's been a breakout from the album, just judging from my TikTok algorithm. I think the mustard yell definitely, I think maybe made this song. Because everywhere, all I just see is people yelling mustard online, which you look at like the track list on the desktop version of Spotify, and TV Off I think is like number 3 maybe when you're talking about plays off the album. Either number 3 or number 2. Number 3 because it's behind.
They also played it at I went to the LA Galaxy are in the playoffs right now, and we
Mhm.
went to the stadium on God, what day was that? Was that Sunday? I think it was Sunday, and they were playing this there as well. This was like one. I think this might be the only track from the album that they played actually.
Can you guess what the number one song is on the album right now in terms of Spotify plays?
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Is it Squabble Up?
It's not Squabble Up. Squabble Up is number
Is it
two.
Whacked Out Murals? Because the first one.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna do one last guess because otherwise I'm just gonna name all the tracks on the album. Is it? Oh man, this is so tough. Part of me thinks maybe it's one of the ones with SZA. Part of me thinks Reincarnated because that's like kind of another really iconic track from this. And another part of me thinks Dodger Blue. I'm gonna go Dodger Blue.
No. It is Luther
What?
featuring SZA.
Oh, okay, so it is Luther featuring
Yeah.
SZA.
Which
Also a really great track.
really great track, and like I think saw like maybe a slower rise than Squabble Up, because Squabble Up was, I believe, number one up until maybe yesterday. Like looking at it today, it's like they're off by about 500,000 plays, but like Luther has 28 million, Squabble Up has about 27.5 million. But like smart track listing here by Kendrick to have SZA on like both of the more chill songs. I guess Dodger Blue is also kind of like laid back and chill, right? But like Kendrick and SZA as a collaboration seems to have a 0% fail rate. Like it is like 100% guaranteed you're gonna have a song that people are gonna flock to. But yeah, TV Off is number 3 after both of those, which I think speaks volumes to like how much it's resonating. I took, like I mentioned earlier, I took notes for each of the songs, and TV Off has the least notes I took, because what I have here. Beat is nasty, no deeper reading into the lyrics, just pure vibes, is my first bullet point here. My second bullet point is mustard, and then my third bullet point is bitch, I'll cut my granny off if she don't see it how I see it. And
yeah, that's also there. We got the I get on their ass, somebody gotta do it. Like I think this song has such a great use of repetition. I think Kendrick is so good at knowing when he has a banger bar, and he really leans into it in this track.
yes, and Kendrick is, I think, I don't know if he's just discovering this or if we're just discovering this, but he really knows how to create very memeable and catchy bars, right? Stuff that like sticks with you. Not Like Us had like a bunch of those, right? Like A Minor off of Not Like Us was what it was on everybody's mind for like a good month after that came out, right? Like all I heard after that song came out was A Minor over and over again. And TV Off has a bunch of that. And yeah, like I don't know. It almost feels like TV Off was constructed to be another Not Like Us. I don't know if it's gonna hit on the level of Not Like Us. That's maybe my one or one of my few complaints with this album, is that I don't think this album has a like another Not Like Us on it or anything that's gonna hit on that level. We'll see. I could see Squabble Up maybe getting there. I could see TV Off maybe getting there, but like I don't know if they got the power of a Not Like Us. But TV Off feels like the next. Kind of like the next foray for Kendrick into like that type of song, which I like a lot.
TV Off does feel like Not Like Us's cousin.
Yeah.
He's like cool, but like not quite as cool. But like also Not Like Us has so many things going for it. It's like I don't think you're ever really gonna replicate something like that again. Like I feel like it hit everything. It like did the beef. It like felt like such an anthem for everybody. Like I think what's been wild about this album specifically, I think more so than any previous records from Kendrick, is Kendrick has always been the culture, but now he's like really the culture. Like he's like the fact that so many like sports stuff has like captured on like Not Like Us and even like TV Off now. It's just like this is the anthem. Like how hard it is to make a song that's catchy enough that it can be played after like every single successful moment in every single sporting team's like big event is wild. Now obviously my bias is that I'm experiencing a lot of this from LA, where obviously like the Dodgers won the World Series, they're gonna play Not Like Us. Like every time the Galaxy score, they play Not Like Us. Like you're never gonna have that again. It's awesome every single time. God. But
I mean that's the song
is also very fun.
And that's my hope, is that Not Like Us is that song that I'll listen to still today, and I'm like, man, this shit goes hard. Like I'm still not tired of Not Like Us. TV Off, I could see myself being tired of TV Off in about.
You're gonna turn the TV off?
I think I'm gonna turn the TV off in maybe about a month. I think if it is December 27th and we're still playing TV Off, I can see myself being like, all right, guys, give it a rest. But that said, Hey Now I could play that song I think forever. Hey Now, I think right now is kind of one of the underrated ones as far as like the potential of that song. Granted, I'm somebody who currently lives in San Francisco. That is the most San Francisco hyphy style song right there, but it goes so fucking hard. I love the airy kind of beat. I love the fucking like the creaky sound in the back of Hey Now. I love Kendrick's like his delivery on there almost sounds like a like E40 is not the right one to point to, but he sounds like a Bay Area artist. And I'm sure there's like a specific one that I can't think of right now, but he has that delivery to it. The feature of Dottie 6 is such a great feature. He's great on it, and he has like a back and forth with Kendrick that I think is fire. He also has a line like that goes who the fuck I feel like Joker, Harley Quinn, I'm in the cut with a blower. That shit goes fucking hard. It's
I literally was, as you were talking, I was searching for that line. I'm like, is this the line where he says the Joker? And I went to go highlight it because they're literally the same.
It is, I think, the nastiest beat of the album. Like if I'm talking about my favorite banger on the album, it's Hey Now. However, if I'm talking about my favorite song currently, because it's changed from day to day, I think right now Reincarnated is probably my favorite. I think it is the most interesting song conceptually, and I just love listening to it sonically as a song, right? Like it is Kendrick rapping over a sampled Tupac beat. That's basically just the beat. It's like barely a sample. It's like he just straight up took the beat. But he's rapping over a Tupac instrumental using Tupac delivery. And this track is wild for multiple reasons and is layered for multiple reasons. I think the immediate thing I'll shout out before I get into like the deeper things of it is that like it's kind of a nice like sneak diss back at Drake for Tailor Made freestyle, right? Going back in time, Drake did the whole Tailor Made thing where he used AI Tupac voice to then rap like Tupac and taunt Kendrick. The fact that Kendrick is using the Tupac delivery over a sample and kind of like doing it in way more of a respectful, honorable way to kind of be like, yo, this is how you do it. And then also like, this is how, like, I'm almost taking this back, right? Like I love Tupac. I'm taking it back of, you know, being able to rap like and honor Tupac and actually embody like a California legend. I think that's huge for the song, and I think is an added very interesting layer. But I think that's almost like the least interesting aspect of the song, the fact that I think it is a bit of a reply to Tailor Made freestyle. From there you get into the actual conceptual stuff he's doing here, and it is him rapping in each verse about a different musician. I've not been able to like, I'm not as educated about like fucking 1900s like musicians. I don't know if that's the right way to phrase it.
John Lee Hooker. Yeah. I have to look this up also.
I had to look it up.
I know. Yeah, it's like I know this is obviously in reference to like different people. And the second one presumably being Billie Holiday. Again, this is stuff I looked up. I wasn't just like definitely Billie Holiday. I mean, again, you can tell like the story and the trajectory of these like characters.
Yeah.
For this, I don't know where I rank it. I ranked it like 3 for best track, but honestly, it's probably 1 if I'm being honest. Like if I'm really trying to like think about what's going on musically with it, I probably would rank it number 1 in terms of quality. Because in my notes I put Reincarnated, Pac Flow, low key the best song. I think this is like it's the more artsy one. I don't know how often I'm like necessarily reaching for it if I'm cherry picking songs out of the album, but probably like decently often because it does sound really good. I think he does a great job. For lack of a better word, imitating Pac's flow. Like this was also upon first listen, this stood out to me immediately as someone that has listened to a lot of Tupac growing up. Like All Eyes on Me was like a big one. Me Against the World was a big one for me. A couple other ones too, like that I've like dipped into, but those are some of like my favorite ones that I would go back to a lot. So, I mean, obviously like Pac also has an iconic flow, so it's not like you have to listen to that much Tupac to recognize
see, I'm
it.
not like a big Tupac listener, but immediately I was like, oh, that's Tupac. Like he's rapping like Tupac.
I also think Tupac has a really like iconic delivery style that, you know, just kind of, if you're in the space at all, you're going to recognize it. But I think it also did a great job like doing storytelling, which is done plenty of times in hip hop, but it is a little bit of like an older style in a sense. Like it is very traditional to go back to like these storytelling of like what hip hop is and like embodying characters and like doing that messaging. Again, Kendrick does a bunch of this. This is kind of one of the tenets of quote unquote conscious rap, which is a term we don't really use very often anymore. But, you know, I'd say like in the maybe early aughts area, we were talking a lot about like conscious versus like, you know, other types of hip hop. And we still have those conversations, but we don't use the language in the same way. And I felt like this was him really having a great flow, having a really like listenable and interesting song, but also like telling a really intriguing story that also to me, Reincarnated feels like, despite there being a Heart Part 6, it feels like the heart of the album, because you see him mention reincarnation in other little bits, and that's what I mean by there being like little sprinkles of through lines. Even the song that you mentioned right before this with shoot, it wasn't TV. Well, Hey Now?
Hey Now, yeah.
Hey Now has a line that mentions, let me actually look, because I just marked it 1 second ago. It mentions like the, you know, shit gets scary, like, shit can get spooky every day in October. Even something like that, like, I feel like is a tie back to TV Off, or tie forward, because they're, you know, TV Off comes out and after that. So there's like these little sprinkles, you know, of that throughout. But yeah, that's definitely up there. Also, I was listening to it right before this, and that's one that I think is the most sonically dense song, I think, on the album. Like, I've listened to this album like at least like maybe like a dozen times, or like, you know, high single digits if at minimum. And I was playing it like just off, you know, my MacBook Air, the best way to listen to music, off my shitty MacBook Air speakers. And literally, there was a moment, it was just in the background. I'm like, is there something else playing? Like, is there another song? And it's like the instrumentation is so overpowering at times that it feels like there's several songs almost trapped underneath. And I think that really helps carry through what's going on thematically. Yeah, and Reincarnated.
Yeah.
Where it's like so layered. And it does feel like, you know, Edgar Allan Poe, there's something under the floorboard kind of vibes. And I think that's really cool about this track, where like the message is hitting on so many different levels, where like the instrumentation itself feels a bit haunted and like repasted over in an interesting way.
So it's funny, like you mentioned, like Billie Holiday, right, being like the second verse, and even for me looking it up today, because I had heard Billie Holiday all throughout the weekend. Rap Genius, or I guess just Genius.com now, they say like it most likely Dina Washington, right? So like even in that, it seems like there's not really like a solid, oh, this is who this person is for sure, or like maybe people are still trying to figure it out. And I kind of like that, right? The fact that people can maybe tie it to multiple different people, because conceptually the song, toward the end of the song, right, he's talking to God, and God is like, you're a like every person is a reincarnation of each other, is essentially what he says, one of the things he says toward the ending. And so like, I think, again, tying back to the concept of him rapping as Tupac, right? I think Tupac is one of those people, right? Like the idea that he's like, I was John Lee Hooker, I was Dina Washington, or Billie Holiday. I'm rapping like Tupac, so probably I was Tupac, right? Like, I think it all kind of works together in that way, and like that I think makes the song really interesting, especially in the third verse, where I forget the exact line, but he starts off by saying essentially like, my current life is as Kendrick Lamar, right? And he starts kind of rapping about himself, and I think talking about the entire album and it working together thematically. A few songs before this, you get Man at the Garden, which is Kendrick kind of rapping in frustration, almost saying that he deserves it all, right? Like he is talking about all these different things. He's talking about a GNX, which he talks about quite a bit on this album. He is talking about, you know, being the greatest of all time, XYZ thing. And like at the end of every other bar, he's saying, I deserve it all, or we deserve it all, or, you know, she deserves it all, maybe talking about a family member, right? And there's a lot of almost like self-righteous energy to it of, I've done XYZ thing, I deserve it all. And I like listening to that song, there's also a conviction in the delivery that almost is like oh damn, he really feels this way. And you jump forward to Reincarnated verse 3, and like a lot of that stuff kind of gets brought back up in terms of Kendrick talking about what he's done. Like I'm even trying to look for it in the Rap Genius, in terms of like, you know, he says like, I didn't gloat, I even told them no when the vultures came, took control of my fleshly body when the money changed, right? Like he didn't compromise for money, he didn't compromise for whatever, right? Like he like not jumping forward too much, but I guess jumping forward a little bit, the song Gloria, where he's rapping about his pen, right? Like there's even a reference there as far as, I tried to talk about bitches and you didn't like it, right? Like I have stuck to my morals, I've stuck to what's right, I've stuck to XYZ thing. And he then gets into this back and forth between him and God, that is done in a very like Eminem way that I like. I don't know if you've listened to My Darling by Eminem.
Okay, literally, like one of the things that I had, because I've been talking to my brother a lot about this album as well, but I mentioned like what Kendrick hasn't used like those kinds of voices in like in albums in the past. Like, that's
Yeah.
just like one of the things he does. He has these different inflections for different kind of characters he plays. And I told my brother, I'm like, this is what Eminem thinks he's doing at
Yeah.
this point in his career. But yeah, like this is like how you do it where it's not just corny. And don't tell me that like the first half of Eminem's album is bad to make the point of the second half. Well, guess what? You lost me in the first half. Anyway, but yes, this is very much in that, again, a very traditional kind of like old school implementation of, I think, storytelling in hip hop.
Like let's talk to God and have like a back and forth. And like if you listen to My Darling specifically, like that song has the similar Eminem talking to the devil vibe that this song has here, which devil is involved in this because there's a whole twist to the song that I think is very fascinating. But I'm just gonna read verse 3 up until a point because like it really drives in where Kendrick is coming from, and I think the turn here is so fascinating, where he says, my present life is Kendrick Lamar, a rapper looking at the lyrics to keep you in awe. The only factor I respected was raising the bar. My instincts sent material straight to the charts. My father kicked me out of the house. I finally forgive him. I'm old enough to understand the way I was living. Ego and pride had me looking at him with resentment. I closed my eyes hoping that I don't come off contentious. I'm yelling, Father, did I finally get it right? Everything I did was selfish. I spoke freely when the people needed me. I helped them. I didn't gloat. And now I'm not even like reading it like a rap, right? I'm reading it almost like a plea to God, right? I didn't gloat. I even told them no when the vultures came. I took control of my body when the money I took control of my fleshly body when the money changed. And then I think this is where the shift to God happens, right? Of God talking to him back. Son, you do well, but your heart is closed. I can tell residue that linger from your past creates a cell. And he responds back, Father, I'm not perfect. I got urges, but I hold them down. He then responds, but your pride has to die. And he says, okay, Father, show me how. Then he responds, tell me every deed that you've done and what you do it for. He says, I kept it 100. I kept 100 institutions paid. Okay, tell me more. I put 100 hoods on stage. Okay, tell me more. I'm trying to push peace in LA, but you love war. And then he has like a really Eminem kind of like turn here. He's like, no, I don't. Oh, yes, you do. Right? Like this back and forth of him being like, hey, I've done this all. I try to reunite the peace in LA. I've tried to give back to my community. I've done XYZ thing. And God being like, but you love war. Like, look what you did to Drake. look at the.
I did think of Drake when I read that line as well.
And I think part of it is like, yeah, dude, like you got into a squabble when it came time to do it.
He squabbled up.
He squabbled up. But I also think that is even more so at his heart of how much he probably despises the industry. Because I get big despise the industry vibes from Kendrick. And I'm like, Watch the Party Die is like a big example of like this man does not like where things are at right now. But yeah, I don't know. I just love this back and forth so much. And then it leads into this conceptual place / religious place of him bringing up the book of Isaiah in the Bible. I believe it was Isaiah 14, and him kind of referencing the idea of Lucifer being this fallen angel who was this angel in heaven who was like God's greatest musician, and he fell down. And basically Kendrick implies toward the end of this verse that we're all reincarnations of, the angel of music who was Lucifer. And Kendrick is essentially being like, I am trying my best to use this power for good, right? Use this power of music for good. I don't know, man. I fucking love this song.
But
I
maybe
fucking
for
love
me,
this.
it'll be different, which is like kind of a funny place to end up, right? Because it's like, isn't that always the case in life where you're like, but for some reason it's going to be different with me. But yeah, I think this is like a great job, like as you kind of broke down with showing the lines, the back and forths, like besides it being very much in the vein of traditional hip hop storytelling, it's also, very much in the vein of religion and confession and like one of the, and I guess I don't know offhand, like if Kendrick's what branch of Christianity, he's really like pulling from or referring to or partaking in. But
I mean, this is stuff that I went to church, right? And like I learned about this, right? Not about us all being reincarnations, but like I learned about
but we all know
Satan
God doesn't care about good deeds. Like, depends on which God you have, I guess. Where it's like, oh, you have to be, it's not necessarily about. There's nothing that you can do that is inherently redemption. Is like one of the potential teachings. On,
but I do think
that read about.
I do think that is in line with like. I mean, the beckoning with God here in the song of Kendrick being like, I've done X, Y, and Z thing, and God being like, all right, go on. Like you have war in your heart
Yeah,
still,
like-
though. Like you have like this part of you that still is
Sony Santa
bad.
Monica's like, write that down, write that down.
yeah. It's like, oh, he's the god of war.
Back. Yeah,
Dude,
no,
watch
Max,
the
yo.
watch
Oh my God.
Kratos has to come into our reality to take down Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, is Kendrick the god of war? In this essay, I shall. But yeah, I mean, I think that this sort of kind of ending in that place of you know, I think Mr. Morale in a way is a big look at that too, right? The idea of breaking cycles and him like trying to be this, you know, cycle breaker in what he's doing. Yeah, I guess how do you interpret that last line? The I wrote the devil's story just to take our power back, reincarnated. Like, is it that like I mean, is that like kind of a classic in discussing these things? Like that is where the true power, like being aware. The first step is being aware, I guess, is maybe, you know, what he's kind of hinting at there. But I don't know if that had a different hit for you.
I think it's Kendrick like being the ultimate almost like what's the word I'm looking for? When somebody thinks that like they're God, essentially God complex almost of I think Kendrick in this entire narrative of these black icons, or the I guess musical icons, not even black, right? Like these musical icons throughout history and them having their falls and them having their faults and all this stuff, right? And maybe Billie Holiday being referenced, or Dina Washington, or you know, whoever these people are. I think it's Kendrick being like, I'm the cycle breaker, I'm the Messiah, which is probably wrong. Like it's the tough thing because yeah, you're holding up Mr. Morale and all the Mr.
He did wear a crown of thorns, which was also a very Tupac thing as well. Like
wearing
Tupac,
the crown of thorns.
Yeah, like the, you know, Machiavelli. For some reason I couldn't pronounce it properly. You know, where he's literally like on the cover, like crucified. You know, yeah.
But here's the thing, though, is like
lots of musicians do Christian references. You know,
on the
like
song
Tupac invented Christianity.
On the song Savior in Mr. Morale, he literally says, I am not your savior. So I almost don't know, like, I'm
sure Jesus said that too, though. Let me Google Jesus.
It is really funny Kendrick having the crown of thorns and being like, I'm not your savior. Like, I'm just dressing like Jesus, but I'm not him. And then hear him at the end of Reincarnated being like, I'm rewriting the devil's story just to take our power back.
I am the Lord, and beside me there is no savior. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Yeah. Anyway, this isn't a Bible clap, but it does have a lot of references to, you know, religion, which again, through the cultural osmosis, most people can follow around the main points anyway.
Let me ask you this as a fellow Kendrick stan.
Yeah.
Is
this a Christian rap song? Yes, it is.
No, in Kendrick almost taking this Messiah approach, and I don't want to state that too strongly because again, in Mr. Morale, he very much clearly says, I am not your savior. So but in him being like, I rewrote the devil's story just to take our power back, and him essentially in the song beckoning with God and being like, hey, this is what I've done for my people, this is what I've done for my hood, this is what I've done, like, you know, I've done all this. And like even a lot of this album, going back to Whacked Out Murals, him essentially being like, all you motherfuckers are whack, and I'll just throughout the whole album, right? All you motherfuckers are whack. I'm the only one that's real. I'm the only one that's spitting that real shit. I'm the only one that's fucking, you know, moving the needle forward. Fuck Drake. Fuck all y'all. Fuck the party. I'm gonna watch the party die. Janet, as a fellow stan, is he right? Is he correct?
Like that everyone's whack but him?
Yeah, that everybody's whack but him, and that he's the Messiah of all this shit.
I mean, that's such a loaded question. I guess I have to kind of say no, because there's a lot of other good music that's in Kendrick. But also, I think Kendrick, this album and a lot of these kinds of tracks, it is more sort of, you know, wrestling with the things that, you know, he thinks about late at night. This is his midnight. Sorry, let me use a Taylor Swift reference. This is like the things that keep him up at night, or the things that he's like, I think, wrestled with as he's gained popularity, but also grown in his artistry. And I think definitely some of it's true, right? I mean, he's definitely like in the upper echelon for sure. And with that comes disdain. And with that disdain also comes like disdain in the form of silence, or not, you know, not being excited for like other people's successes. But I also think, I don't know, like I think back to something like, you know, you mentioned Man at the Garden being like, oh yeah, like I deserve all this stuff, whatever. And I don't actually necessarily interpret that song as him saying he deserves all those things. I mean, he is saying it, so like you get that's the on the face interpretation. But I see this song more as like an incantation affirmation song.
Oh, interesting.
Because he's so calm in it. I don't think it means he doesn't believe it, but I think this is his affirmation. He's like, let me send you my morning affirmations, and he wrote "Man at the Garden."
Interesting. See, I see it as like maybe not him saying it to like the world of like literally I deserve it all, but I think these are his deeper thoughts. I think this is like almost him being like, this is what my soul says.
I think he's bringing those thoughts in to sit with it, you know?
But
because in a world of whacked out murals, he has to remind himself that he deserves it all.
I like that interpretation. I like that interpretation a lot because like I think maybe both of us could be right. Like, right. I think him being like, hey, this is what I have to tell myself in order to keep this shit going, in order to like continue this pursuit of being the greatest of all time. Like, I have to tell myself that I deserve it all. But part of me, like, I don't know, just based on him being Kendrick and based on like, I don't know, based on everything we've been given, especially this year of the like that verse of him being like, yo, fuck the big three. It's just big me. Like, Kendrick believes he's the best. And as a rapper, you're supposed to, right? Like, that's kind of a thing. But I genuinely think that I think that Kendrick looks around and I think he's fucking disgusted by what he sees in the rap world. And I genuinely think he's like, I think these are his feelings. And I don't think he's saying this all in like a cocky way, but I think he's just like, these are my deeper feelings. I'm putting it in a song and I know it's wrong, but I'm going to tell you about how I deserve it all. And then I'm going to beckon with God 2 songs later.
No, okay, so I don't think he's disgusted with rap because I think this album is proof that he's not disgusted with rap in the sense that he has so many features from artists that I think he kind of wants to put on. And I think, I don't know how much him admitting that it's like, you know what, Black Hippie didn't pop off because I didn't know how to market, Yeah. But I think there's, I think it's very clear, and obviously you're not necessarily speaking quite fully literally, but I get what you're getting at. But at the same time, it's like, I think there's so much still celebration and excitement to be had. And I think a lot of Kendrick's tracks on here and features on here do embody that.
That's true.
I mean, both can be true, right? You can be the best and also have like a lot of dope people around to celebrate. I also think too, I tried to look into it to find something more specific and I kind of came up short, but for Matt the Garden, I'm like, why does that sound so familiar? Is it like a book or whatever? I think that might also just be like another biblical reference. Like I did think of like the Garden of Eden a bit with what could this be in association with, and a few other people seem like that. Okay, that might be
what's funny,
in that kind of vein of like right outside of heaven's door.
I love that you're like, you go biblical. Like you go to the places where Kendrick's probably going. Because I'm in my mind, I was thinking about Thanos after Infinity War, of after he had snapped half the world away. Spoilers for Infinity War, I guess, of him like kind of retiring on the farm. I kind of viewed Kendrick as like the man at the farm being like, I deserve it all. Like this is what I deserve.
You know what? This is a man, let's be real. This is a man who just loves the Bible. Maybe he just loves it for the source material. Maybe he loves it as a Christian man. I don't know Kendrick. And I'm scared to know Kendrick because I don't want him to yell at me. I gotta be honest. But I also can't help but think about, not that this is like the most biblical album ever, because Mr. Morale is probably in a sense like more because with the crown of thorns and all that, but like I can't help but think about, again, the Tupac comparisons, with Tupac also having a lot of religious stuff, but also, was it man at the garden, man in the garden, whatever, like that kind of having that outside of maybe heaven, like in the Garden of Eden, or you're in heaven. Like I can't help but think of like Thug's Mansion by Tupac, or like, he references Nas, and Nas had that song Heaven, If Heaven Was a Mile Away or whatever. And it's like, and that was off of his album Godson, so it's just like, I think this drop the double disc of I Am Jesus by Kendrick Lamar. And just, I don't know. I want to hear it. But yeah, there's a lot going on with this. But yeah, I see Man at the Garden more as a affirmation, which means that he wants to believe it, and this is him practicing believing it.
Interesting. I like that though. I'm trying to look at what other songs we haven't talked about yet, because we've not talked about Peekaboo, which is like, I think, kind of an underrated song so far.
It's also another kind of Bay Area vibe. I think
I love it so much because like the beat is haunting And
Yeah,
Kendrick,
you love the Bay Area songs. I love I'm like Dodger Blue. And
yeah, yeah. Like that's the thing is, yeah, there's like the clear like, oh, this is the one for LA. These are like the bangers are more for Bay Area, but like the more chill, laid back ones feel like they're more LA. Because Dodger Blue, he's talking about you're not from LA unless you've been past the 10 or whatever. Like you probably get way more than I get.
Yeah. Which actually, well, let's start at Peekaboo. That's what you brought us.
Yeah,
to.
I mean
This
the
is
only
another standout.
I don't know if I would say it's a standout, but it's definitely a song that I fuck with heavy because the beat is fucking dope. Kendrick is hilarious. He has a line here where he says, "Bing bop boom boom bop bam," the type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand, and that shit kills me every single time it comes on.
No, that's like the best thing. That's another meme one I've seen a lot where people are, which it seems like such a funny like line to analyze, but I know people have talked about that potentially being a reference to like those. I forgot the name of the comedy skit, but you know, like the gif of the guy falling away in the.
You're talking about the rapper, the battle rap. Yeah.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about. Oh, chat. What's his name?
That's a reference to it. I don't. Obviously, these are all just like
super hot.
People's. Yes. They're like, oh yeah, like people are like Hendrix a millennial because he referenced this thing and this. You know,
that's funny because I didn't even think about that. I think he's just making sound effects of like beating somebody's ass, right? Like I think it's like each of these bing bop booms is like a fucking punch being thrown.
Well, he's a master at what is that called in English literature?
Double
onomatopoeia? No, not onomatopoeia. Is it onomatopoeia? I think.
Like sound effects. Boom, you're right.
Yeah, he's a master because wop 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 was also like one of the best moments in Not Like Us. You know, it's like now fuck him up. Like he's so good at that, and it sounds so good. And I feel like on so many other rappers, this would be really corny. I think that's the thing. Like, I think Kendrick does a great job at having a lot of supports built into his songs where, not that, you know, creating catchy music is anything to get away with, but I do think there's like a, sometimes like a facet of like music analysis or like hip hop conversations where it's like, oh, the stuff that's like deep is automatically better than stuff that's like catchy. And I think there's obviously artistry to both, but I think Kendrick does a really good job at having so much lyricism, but then also being able to be like, boom, bop, bam. And
well, that's the thing is, I mean, that's where I had a Blue Sky post go up yesterday about like Kendrick just being a fantastic writer, because the fact that we got Reincarnated, which we just talked about, which is like this deep dive into, you know, him embodying Tupac, talking about being reincarnated into multiple musicians, and then towards the end beckoning with God, talking about what he's done, and you know, God explaining to them who he is, and him essentially being another reincarnation of Lucifer, who's the god or who's the angel of music. But Kendrick is like, hey, I'm gonna rewrite the story and take it back, right? That's such a beautiful message. It's such a beautiful concept. And in Peekaboo, he says, bing bop boom boom bop bam. Or later on he says, hey, that's my bitch. He also says, what they talking about? They talk about nothing. And he repeats that 6 times. Like, he's a genius writer, man, because all that shit in Peekaboo is so fucking catchy. And like, I can't think of that shit. There's no world in which somebody's like, hey, write a rap, and I'm like, bing bop boom boom bam. The type of shit I'm on you wouldn't understand. Like, that's a talent right there, to be able to hit both of those sides of the spectrum as far as catchiness, catchy dumb shit, and like,
damn, is this song going up on my list actually?
Dude, Peekaboo goes fucking hard.
Because like it also has the line from verse 2, which it's better if you read it honestly, because I can't really read this line. But the surprise bitch is Chuck E. Cheese. Dude,
there's a like, line.
That's insane. That's actually so fucking funny.
Is that from the feature, or is that from Kendrick?
God. Yeah, it's from the feature.
Because like the feature, who I don't know how to say their name, and I'm scared to try because when I read it, it reads like Ass Cheek, and I don't think that's their name. I don't think their name is Ass Cheek, so I want to say Az Cheek.
Can be right though. Chill, listen, is this Ass Cheek that we have? Who do we have on the phone here?
That's me trying to stretch it to Az Cheek, because I'm like, if I'm reading this naturally, it's Ass Cheek. But they said, heard what happened to your mans, not sorry for your loss. And I'm like, that's a fucking bar right there. The features were bringing it.
Also, is that a Drake reference? Sorry for your loss.
Wait, sorry. What am I thinking of? Sorry for your loss. What's that a reference to?
That was like, you know, it's like that song where this sounds dumb, but I'm like, that song where it's a sorry for your loss, where it's like, oh God, what song is that? That opens.
Oh,
there.
Her
But
Loss.
yeah, like Drake's song. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Where it's like there's that opening "Sorry for your loss," you know, and then it again. "Sorry for your loss" is a common phrase, so maybe not. But
I just think it's a funny
funny
thing to say of like, hey man, heard what happened to your mans. I'm not sorry for your loss. Like, fuck off.
Yeah,
Fuck you.
There's a lot of cheeky stuff in here.
And like them going,
I gotta check out all the features on this album. By the way, like I'm not gonna lie, I'm one of the people that's like I've been sleeping on all these artists. I gotta like go and listen to what they got going on. But
features are
a lot of fun. That song.
Features definitely shined. The thing I respect a lot about Kendrick with the features is that he went back and forth with a lot of them. Like he'll either like go back and forth on a hook or like have a few lines in one of their verses, and it makes me want to listen to the features verses. Like I don't know who Ass Cheek is, but guess what? I'm gonna listen to the verse because Kendrick's on it too.
I'm so curious how this is said because maybe we're not right. I don't know.
I can't think of a different way to pronounce that. Well, whoever they are, they're fire though. Like great verses from this person.
Yeah, I want to say again, I should have just Googled everybody to double check. I want to say all smaller LA artists, but I don't know if anyone is outside that. Obviously SZA, but yeah, it's just like a great construction of everything.
I will say Silent Ninja.
Peekaboo's going up on my list now.
Silent Ninja in chat says it's AZ and then pronounced like CHYK. Which I'm scared to say out loud because that doesn't sound like something I should say.
It does sound really close to a couple, I think 2 different,
like multiple different slurs.
Not words. Yeah,
like I can't. I'm too scared to say that out loud, so I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna double check after this, and then I'll
also
feel
have the
comfortable.
Mediachi singer as well, who wasn't like listed as the feature, but was in there throughout.
What do you think is up with that? Right, like that's kind of the I remember you was conflicted of this album.
Yeah, what happens when we put them all together? Because we have "I Feel Your Presence Here," "Last Night," and "We Start to Cry." What reflects in your eyes? "The Night," "You and Me," and then the last one is God. I gotta scroll really far. I should have hopped over. The last one is sitting like sitting here, Anita and you, which some people are saying, or maybe it's Anita Baker. Like back to the kind of reincarnation kind of stuff. But yeah, I kind of feel like, funnily enough, let me go back and look at them yet again on the vibe. I do think just off the top of my head, without having like thought about it a little bit deeper, it kind of being about, I don't know, reflecting. And when I kind of sound like I'm bullshitting in English class though a little bit, it's like, obviously there's that layer of reflection because it's repeated a couple of different times. And it almost feels like the vibe I get, maybe it's just like what I kind of imagine in my mind. And maybe it's also my background life bias of like just what I envision. But someone sitting outside, it's nighttime, but like summer nighttime. And you're like calling them over and you're like sitting and like reflecting on stuff. Like, I don't know. That's not a lot to go off of. But it kind of gives me just like that pensiveness to it. I think without knowing, well, I guess the Anita thing does kind of come in 2 different spots because we have like, what track is this? This is, the first track, "Riding in My GNX" with Anita Baker in the tape deck is the first like line.
Yeah.
So like it opens with what reflects in your eyes, like "The Night, You and Me." He mentions that Anita Baker thing. Halfway through, we got I have so many things written on here. We have the, then seated like Anita and Me. I don't know. Maybe it's just like him back in the car again.
Yeah. I wonder. Well, one of the things I was thinking about is, I don't know if you've heard the theory of each of Kendrick's albums being a different sort of like medium. And so
yeah, you told me about this.
Yeah.
Can you remind me what that theory is?
Like Section 80 is essentially a book because it's divided into chapters. If you look at the track list, every song is a chapter. And like literally some of the songs are titled Chapter 8 or whatever. Good Kid, Mad City, and I'm gonna butcher this guy because I like saw this in like a video, and I didn't write this down. But Good Kid, Mad City, I believe, is like a movie. In chat, remind me why they're calling it why it's a movie, because I see average Joe on air has the same thing, right? Good Kid, Mad City is supposed to be a movie. Let me know like the evidence of it being a movie. To Pimp a Butterfly is a poem. It's a Tupac.
Yeah.
Right. Damn is a magazine. If you look at the like album cover of DM, right? It has kind of like the Time magazine font to it. And I also
Yeah.
have the personal theory. This
The
is
Remedy font thing, you know? Just
yeah.
kinda...
Oh, it says a film by Kendrick Lamar on the album. Yes. Thank you, Autonomic, Nervous William in chat. So yeah, it's a film. Damn, I also have the personal theory. This isn't from a video, but like I think it's like doubling as magazine and maybe like a news source or like a newspaper. Because he has like those Fox News references and it's like very political in terms of subject matter. So I kind of have like a side theory that it's almost newspaper-ish. And then Mr. Morale is supposed to be a play. And so I do like a stage play. I do wonder if maybe those instances of like the Spanish, it sounds like a poem, honestly. So maybe like the Spanish poem is supposed to point to what medium GNX might be. Because I had the theory that it was a drama. Or like, and if it's a drama, I don't know. Like, I don't know what that has to do with Spanish unless it's like a telenovela or some shit.
It's a horror film. Like, it could be a telenovela, I guess, but it doesn't really have that, you know, mariachi music isn't really necessarily associated with telenovelas in a way that's close enough where I'm like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because like, I mean, the subject matter points to like, it is dramatic, right? Like him getting into in Whacked Out Murals talking about all this shit, addressing it, talking about how he let Lil Wayne down, all this stuff, right? Like, and just based off the last year, this year has been a drama for Kendrick Lamar. So I did what somebody says FX miniseries, that could be fun.
Let's see. I mean, I think we just have to sit with it for long. I mean, sure, some people are gonna have like interpretations on the kind of refrain that's in there.
Yeah.
Because it's I guess it's, I don't know. It does kind of strike me as religious again in a way, and maybe it's just because we spend a lot of time like talking about it. But because it's when you put them all together, because I'm like, I haven't actually done that yet. But it's I feel your presence here last night, and we start to cry. What reflects in your eyes? The night, you and me, and then it's seated, Anita and you. So it's like through. It's like I don't know. Someone draw this out. It's like through being with someone. It's like you can kind of be back to this other place where you're like having these conversations with like musicians from the past. Like, I don't know. I think it does kind of go back to that like reincarnation kind of aspect, but that's also just because I just see that as the core of the album. But
what do you think about GNX? What do you think about like the album being called GNX, which like for the context people, I believe it is
like
my
question.
It's like a exclusive or like rare Buick car model, right? It's like the Grand National exclusive.
Yeah.
And they only made a certain amount of them in the world.
All I know is I know everyone that has a GNX slept good that night as well. Like Nas and all the GNX owners were like, yep, everyone was like, why do you care for this car? Yeah, I think I have been trying to actually think about that as we've been talking, because I also think this ties into Man at the Garden and then a bit of, you know, the ending of the album with like the Spanish part and all of that, and thinking about like, and also TV Off has an aspect that's like the opening of TV Off, like the all I ever wanted was a black Grand National.
Yeah, dude, he references it like quite a bit. Also, Grand National experimental, not exclusive. Thank you, chat.
So I wonder, and I'm still parsing through this, and I think I need to really sit with it a lot longer to think about it. I kind of wish I thought about it earlier, but if this is almost looking at, okay, what are the two tragedies in life, Blessing? Have you heard of this before?
No. Wait. I think I have. The two tragedies in life. Is it? Fuck, tell me. I've heard this, but I can't think of like what the actual answer is.
Now you're the man at the garden, and I'm God. Okay. Not getting what you want and getting it. The two tragedies in life.
Okay.
So I wonder if this is kind of like looking at that a little bit, where all Kendrick wanted was a black Grand National. He obviously has the black Grand National. It's the picture, like, you know, the album. All he also wanted was, you know, to be successful in his career, right? Obviously, he's passionate about like being a musician and his artistry and all of that. But I think so much of this album is looking at what is it like to be at the top, or at least be perceived at being at the top, and what does that entail, right? What does it entail? It entails haters. It entails, you know, conflict. It entails this, you know, need to affirm oneself. It entails being part of a long legacy of musicians, and the list can go on as we go through the tracks and the different aspects of what this is looking at, not just fame, but like his stature. And I think it's sort of him bringing up this Black Grand National over and over again is kind of almost like looking at it at different angles, where, you know, we have the hold on, I'm trying to find where it is at the top or what the first reference is. But like, you know, if we think about like with TV off, it's him being kind of like celebratory of it, but I think he kind of looks at it from like these different angles, and I think it represents like his success, where it's like, oh, this is all I wanted and I have it, and part of that is celebration, but part of it is also struggle, perhaps in some ways. That's kind of my interpretation of it. But
I mean, I really like that interpretation.
What is yours?
I mean, my interpretation, I think is a bit similar to yours, but almost more basic. Of like, hey, this is an album full of like stunning on people and having fun, and like, hey, like a GNX was kind of like is apple of Kendrick's eye. Is that a appropriate metaphor, right, or appropriate phrase?
Oh my God, have you seen oh my God, I should know the name of this movie. Freaking it's his Rosebud.
Yeah, it's his that's a good Citizen Kane.
Yeah, Citizen Kane.
Yeah, and like I think, you know, it being
it all comes back to Citizen Kane.
It always comes back to whenever you talk about art, we have to bring up fucking Citizen Kane.
Fucking Citizen Kane. Jeez.
But I do think like it being the peak of his like vain desires, and this being an album that's kind of full of a bit of vanity and a bit of like him being like, I deserve it all. Fuck all y'all, like, you know, like it's me, I'm the chosen one, all this stuff, right? Like I think GNX might embody a bit of that energy. My other theory is, because I looked this up as you were talking, right? The GNX came out in 1987, which is the same year that Kendrick was born. And so like Kendrick being like, all I've wanted was a black Grand National. I think that's probably true, right? I think he probably wanted that car, but I wonder if he sees himself in like not literally, like metaphorically, he sees himself in as a GNX, in the sense that like it is this exclusive thing from back in the day that meant a lot to people, that like you can only get if you're like, you know, one of the rare ones, right? And like I wonder if he is, in terms of evaluating himself, like he is like, I am now the GNX of rap. I am that exclusive thing that you're not getting anywhere else. But yeah, I don't know. I think it could be a number of things. If we get a GNX 2, I think it might explain even more. The thing about GNX, the album, though, is like there's a song on here called GNX. It doesn't say shit for me to go off of as far as what he's rapping about here, right? It's another banger type of song. It's featuring Peso, which I fuck with this guy Peso. I never heard of Peso, but I fuck with him. But like it's also kind of like the most like, for me, it's the lesser of the bangers, right? It's the one that I'm probably going to come back to. It's the lowest
one on my list, actually.
Yes.
Oh, not because it's not good, but someone has to be at the bottom. And I slid GNX. Yeah, it's not that I slid GNX down. I just kept slotting stuff above it. And I was like, I guess GNX is my current least favorite.
I saw something floating around on social media that the producer of GNX gave Kendrick the beat like 2 days before the album came out. And I'm like, that's fucking insane if that's true. Because one,
also maybe that's why it's the lowest one.
Yeah, well, this thing is like, I think the beat is kind of bad, but Kendrick and Peso and like the features here, I think they do such a good job of. Have you heard the beat to Single Ladies?
Yeah. Oh yeah, how it's all like a clown beat. Yeah.
Yeah, the beat to Single Ladies is the most horrendous shit I've ever heard in my life. But somehow Beyonce and her writers and her people are just geniuses. And so they turned this pile of shit into a platinum song. And that's kind of GNX to me, where I listen to this beat and I'm like, I could have made this beat, and give me 10 minutes, I'm making the GNX beat in Fruity Loops. But they took that beat and they made like a good song out of it. But I'm also like, what does this add to the album aside from another banger, which I'm always down for another banger. Like, I'm not complaining about the song being on there, but does it add anything conceptually? Track. Did you?
I don't know, but that's why I'm like, part of me is like, maybe I should have listened to it even closer just to try to like, is this giving us the answers we're looking for? I guess you're probably right. It probably isn't. I mean, I might have to like listen to it and read. I doubt, like, if the 2-day thing is true, I doubt that we're getting the answers we're looking for from the actual GNX song. But I do think that maybe that song is indicative of, hey, GNX might just be the fact that like, yo, this motherfucker wanted a GNX car and he got it, and now he's studding on these hoes. Like, that might be it. That might be like the extent of what we need to look at. But it being Kendrick, you imagine that it's deeper. Also, sorry, y'all just saw my background for a second there. Yeah. So, Are there okay? Yeah, what ones that we referred to but didn't actually like get all the way into? Also, let me make sure. Okay, yeah, I'm good on time. I think.
Yeah,
Dodger
we should wrap
Blue,
up soon here.
Dodger Blue, and there was the one that you met. Yo, I think Peekaboo was your Dodger
Peekaboo's.
Blue essentially, right?
Yeah.
If we're thinking of them in like split for the different parts of California. Yeah, I mean Dodger Blue, not like in immense stuff to say on this one, but I do love the the bitchin' from the land. Don't say you hate LA when you don't travel past the 10. And then also there's another one that's don't say you hate LA but live in LA for 10. Oh my god. So Kendrick this year has really given me and pretty much everybody in Los Angeles ammo to deal with all of the LA hate. Because Blessing, I feel like I don't even know how much I've talked to you about this, but motherfuckers hate LA, bro, and like they will not shut up about it. It's crazy. Like I've never gotten hated on so much for somewhere I lived. Like I've gotten negative stuff, like living in, growing up in Chicago, people be like, isn't it dangerous? Like that's more like racism. You don't really get that from like, so it's like, oh, okay, whatever. Not that that's not bad, but it's like,
it's like, I can excuse racism, but you're, but you're hating LA.
Yeah. Which low key, another form of racism. I'm going to throw that out there. But anyway, which Kendrick also kind of gets at that with people that will only be in like certain parts of LA and right off the whole city. But between this and Not Like Us, I really have all the ammo I need to deal with the LA haters. Because I'm like, I know you're talking shit about LA when you don't travel past the 10. I got that. I got the we can be on a 3-hour time difference. I'm like, you know what? I am fine with it. I pushed the line with it. Like Kendrick really healed a lot of people this year. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I think it's super fun. Of course, calling it Dodger Blue, also iconic. I think something that people might not know if they're not around LA or don't get the vibes. Like I know in some cities people, have the whole like bandwagon or are you a real fan? There's gatekeeping everywhere for like different sports teams, but the Dodgers are like LA's team very much. Where it's like I have this joke that I say when you move to LA, you're like given your legally mandated Dodgers hat, but like genuinely, besides the fact that the hat is cool as shit because it says LA on it, but like that's like. The vibes are the Dodgers. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but like everybody cares a little bit about the Dodgers. Even like myself, I don't watch baseball like that at all. But so for this to be called Dodger Blue, like, oh man. And then the Dodgers won the World Series. Like, what a good year for the Dodgers. So yeah, and it's a nice chill song. It's not wildly high on my list. It kind of sits in that middle tier, but I enjoy it. It's got a nice vibe to it. I know people in the chat have mentioned, of course, like GNX and that type of car being of the culture, for the culture. There being like that kind of the car culture aspect of, I think, California and LA specifically, and, kind of integrating all that. That's definitely also in there as well, which we should at least give a nod to. I don't think it needs intense cultural unpacking, but that's definitely part of it and part of what makes this album feel so culturally rich in that sense.
Yeah.
Also, I think it's interesting that we have that Luther sample in an album that is so talking about musicians' histories and trajectories and the idea of like musicians being interconnected. I think that's kind of looking back an interesting choice.
Yeah, and dude, that Luther song goes so hard. Like
it's really cool.
The duet between SZA and Kendrick. Like I can get a whole album of that. I can get a whole album of them harmonizing. Like it's just a vibey. I can put this on whenever type of song.
Tour. She's too big to open for him, but
yeah, I mean, but they could for sure. They could for sure do a joint tour. It'd be the craziest audience, but like you can for sure do a SZA Kendrick tour. And I mean, honestly, I think I almost hope that they have planned a collab album. Because I think the collab album would do legendary numbers. I think this is because you have them on not just the two songs they have here, right? But they did like the Black Panther stuff as well. All the Stars, that was such a hit. And I don't think they made their best song together yet. Like I think they have way higher potential of songs they can make. Like I think these songs are great, and I fucking love Luther. But I'm like y'all can make better songs together. Like I think Kendrick and SZA still have some stuff in them.
Also, I have a confession to make. The song Hey Now, one thing that's kind of tough for me listening to that song is that when he says Hey Now, is it Hey Now, Say Now? When he says Hey Now, Say Now,
yeah,
in my brain, it goes, This Is What Dreams Are Made Of, the song by Hilary Duff. hey now, this is what like, and I think that's really hard to try to get away from for me with this track.
My thing with it is that
did this happen to you? Did you hear Hilary Duff when he said "Hey now, say now"?
No, but I think that's part of it is because right after that he says, "Hey now, say now, I'm all about my yen," and I'm like, damn, not even dollars. He's about his yen. And he says, "Big face Buddha, get my peace from within." And I'm like, I'm already 4 lines in. He's got me on a different wing, like on a different level, right? I like 4 lines in. I'm like, fuck it, dude. We're vibing out. Like he's all about his yen. I fucking respect it. He's not even counting dollars anymore, and he's got his peace from within. Kendrick is the GOAT. He's the GOAT. And so no, I'm not thinking about dreams being what dreams are made of. But now I might actually. You might have fucked that up for me.
Oh, somebody in chat did say one of the features later, I believe it might be GNX, mentions Lizzie McGuire. So there's something there. Kendrick's secretly Hilary Duff fan?
I love like the deeper we dig into this. Like we learned that Lizzie McGuire had a GNX in the show at some point. Like
honestly, like I don't know.
We learned that Lizzie McGuire is like the thing that ties this whole album together.
There's something there.
Last thing I do want to talk about is the last song, Gloria, which I think is fucking awesome, right? Like it is a I used to love her style song where he's like rapping about somebody who he's in love with, but turns out he's rapping about his pen. And so you go back and like you re-listen to the song. Guess what? The entire context has changed. That's like one of my favorite rapper tropes, even though I think it's getting harder and harder to do that trope and like be as, I guess, like unique and like fresh with it because we've gotten it so much. And I will say like Gloria is like not my favorite song on the album based on I just heard this concept a bit too much, but I always do love the concept. It's that weird balance of, I think every rapper does need one of these. Every rapper does need the one song where it's a love song, but you're actually rapping at something else. A couple years ago, did you ever listen to the Vince Staples song, When Sparks Fly?
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe not.
It came out it was from the album before this last album. So it came out a couple years ago, and like that was such a good example of one of those. I think that kind of spoiled me, right? Because we've had I Used to Love Her by Common, we had Homecoming by Kanye, right? When Sparks Fly is Vince Staples rapping about like a loved one and like kind of like doing like really good storytelling of, hey, I held you down when you were in trouble, all this stuff. But it's a bit more like hood because it's Vince Staples, and he's actually rapping about his gun, which I think Nas might have done before too. But like
Nas was the gun.
You're right.
Like he rapped from the perspective of the gun.
You're right. He was the gun.
But somebody did also have like I think a gun thing. That's what I was searching for because I know a few other artists have done like some iconic ones of this one.
But Vince Staples did it so well that I didn't catch it until like the 20th listen, and I was like,
"So when did you?"
Wait a second.
Okay, that's a lot.
It was like a lot of listens before I caught that he was rapping about a gun, and I was like, "This is how it should be done." Like it should be a revelation. I should see like the world shift like around me when I fucking catch the fact that like you were rapping about this thing. I don't like that Kendrick at the end was like, "That bitch is my pen." It's like, come on, man. I'm smarter than that.
If you didn't like it.
I didn't like that.
Did you clock it before that? He just started to lean heavy into the explicit writing metaphor, especially in verse 3, where he's like kind of is going very heavy-handed already with the like, I don't know. I know your favorite movie is The Notebook, but like a lot of bitches like The Notebook, so I feel like that.
Dude, the wiggle through my. Well, here's the thing, because the Notebook line like cracked me the fuck up, but it was also. Oh, what did he say? He was like, he said something about like, I'm gonna wiggle through it, or like wiggle through the page, or like wiggle through the sentence. Because he was talking about like a jail sentence, but like literally like a pen. I don't know. It was like one of those ones where I was like, all right, these are heavy. Like this is the first time where I'm listening to Kendrick bars, and I'm like, it's a bit on the nose. It's like very on the nose for a lot of these. And yeah, what's your favorite movie? Is it The Notebook? That one.
Okay.
He told the line.
I know your favorite movie. Is it Notebook? Which obviously you don't know if you have to ask. I don't know. I do think towards the end there it does get a little bit more like too heavy-handed. And I was trying to think of, it's eluding me right now, but there are some like older rappers that have done this where I'm like, this is very like, I get it. It's like every single line had to be full of references in a way that felt overpacked, and I think towards the end he does kind of overpack it, but before he overpacks it, I think it's it's a pretty good one of these. Like I think
Yeah.
it's a nice love song before it gets a little bit too. Let me throw in like an extra 16 of these, and then at the end I'm gonna say it because I don't think anyone's gonna get it
Yeah, this
otherwise.
thing is like I saw Blue Sky, like my Blue Sky timeline being like, oh man, Gloria, what a beautiful song. He's talking about his pen, and I'm like, all right, cool, we got it, we understand. What I do like, okay, I'll tell you the two things I do like about the song. One, his delivery is a bit like sing songy, right? It's not like straight up
Yeah,
rap, and like
it's cute.
it's all yeah, it's kind of like emotional. Like you can kind of tell that this song means a lot to him, and that made me appreciate it. And I do like there's a line in there talking about in 2014 we went to Africa and like kind of talks about writer's block a bit, and you know, you go back and remember Tip and Butterfly, and like Tip and Butterfly, is like very heavily influenced by that trip he took to Africa in 2014. And the fact that you can kind of see this timeline that he's creating through this song, I think that's really cool. Like I liked those portions of it. I almost wish that he leaned more into being like, hey, I'm not even gonna try and mask it. Like we know what I'm rapping about here. I'm not gonna try and make it too clever, but maybe I can make this almost like a timeline of my life as a writer and how much it's meant to me and stuff, because I think that is a powerful message. I think a powerful message is what writing has done for you, your career, your mental health, like it being a therapeutic thing for you, your relationship with writing. I think that can be a very powerful topic, and I think it is here. I do think he touches on a lot of that stuff, but I think that could have been more of the focus if you got rid of some of like the clever
The Notebook.
yeah, the note. Oh my god, the Notebook line.
I really like from this song too the with the sort of I think the interlude in the song is probably my favorite part. Like when he says, "Then fall right back in love the very moment that I touch you." I thought that was very like nicely
Yeah.
said and produced, and like the beat dropped in a nice way. And I think this has like a very, this sounds cheesy because the song is called Gloria, but I think it does have like a glorious tone to it in like, SZA's performance of the chorus and outro. Now reading it back though, it is funny where it's like, oh, I want to take it to Euphoria, and I'm like, Euphoria, like,
Oh, dude,
the
literally
perfect 6-minute song. Yeah.
No, I had that exact. So here's the thing, right? I had that exact same revelation, but I took
And then
it
you
to
go,
a
tune them superpowers.
well, I took it to a deeper place where I was like, Gloria, I want to take you to Euphoria. I wonder, one, how long has Kendrick had this song in the tuck? Like, is this a song that Kendrick's been sitting on for a while? Because that might explain why Euphoria is named Euphoria. Like, I wonder if he named that song Euphoria because that literally is like what he views as the peak of his writing. Like, hey, I want to take my pen to Euphoria. I want to like give this 6 to 7 minute exercise of like my lyrical ability and like put my skill to the ultimate test by taking out Drake, I guess. Like that was my read on it. Is like Gloria, I want to take you to Euphoria. Euphoria, he named that song that because this is him taking his pen to like the ultimate place that he can. I don't know if that's reading too much. Point. I don't know if that's a stretch.
I don't think so, because it's a very specific combination. It's like, what are the odds that that's just like a coincidence, or that he's just a fan of the TV show Euphoria? Like, I don't think that's,
well, that's why I think like maybe he was sitting on this song for a while, or maybe like, I don't know, maybe he had the sample or whatever. Maybe he knew.
You're saying maybe he already made this as he was working on his double disc album coming out, to be confirmed double disc, unlike this freaking another L from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, not even a regular double disc. No, I'm just kidding. The album's actually pretty good. It's growing on me.
Whatever the double disc like or deluxe thing is going to be, I guarantee people are going to be so disappointed by it. It's going to be a deluxe album, and the deluxe songs are going to be Not Like Us, Euphoria, 616 in LA. It's going to be songs.
The sample cleared? I hope he gets that sample cleared.
He better get that sample cleared.
I'm tired of going to YouTube to listen to 616 LA. I got to be honest.
And like 616 LA, low-key best song in that beef. That song is fucking incredible.
It's just really.
It should be on streaming services. Janet, that brings us to the end of the Kendrick Lamar GNX review. Do you have any final thoughts before we get out of here?
Oh, I want your currently today. I know it's gonna change. Whatever. What is your favorite, like, songs top down?
Ooh,
or best, if you have a best? I don't know if you've looked at that at all.
Top down. Wait. Okay. Let me open up the.
I can go through mine first if that.
Go for it.
If that helps. Okay. So I'm gonna go favorites, because that's like easier, where it's like you can't tell me what my favorite is, you know.
Yeah,
So I'm gonna take the cowards route and go favorites. TV Off, Squabble Up, Heart Part 6, Luther, Reincarnated, Dodger Blue, Peekaboo, Gloria, Hey Now, Man at the Garden, and GNX. Man at the Garden is really cool. Like, all these are really cool, but I think in terms of me listening, I think that's the route. And I guess I didn't touch on it too much, so I'll use this as an opportunity to shout some of the songs on a deeper level. Heart Part 6 is pretty high for me, just because I think I like how calm it is, and that's just kind of a recap of his history. That's why I enjoy it. The Luther one's just fun because I think it's a great use of the sample. And that's another, I think, example of on this album alongside the Tupac flow, where the second that hit, even though again I'm not a Luther Vandross expert, I'm sure I heard like an album at some point, but it's like, oh shit, that's Luther Vandross. Like that was like really exciting, like out of nowhere, which was really cool. So yeah, that's my current order.
Here's my beef with Heart Part 6 is that it sounds too much, or conceptually, it's too much like Stepping Stone by Eminem. Have you heard Stepping Stones by Eminem?
I don't think so, actually. When did this come out?
This was on his what's the name of that album? It was the same album as
Kamikaze?
Venom. Kamikaze, yes.
I must have then, because I never really said this. I'm kind of a Kamikaze apologist. I actually like Kamikaze. Yeah.
I mean, but it was the song about D12. It was the song where like he was rapping about like his story with D12.
Let's be clear, I don't like every song on Kamikaze, so maybe this was a skip for me. I don't remember, but
yeah, it definitely doesn't sound like a Kamikaze cut. Like it's like a kind of like almost like how's the hook? The hook is like, I never meant to use you all as my stepping stones or whatever. And like,
oh my god, I don't think I like that song. I remember that. Oh my god, you're right.
So it's it's Eminem rapping about D12, and like at the end of the song, he's like, D12 is over, and that's what this song is, and it's so one for one.
Oh my god,
it's so one for one, the same story, and I can't listen to Heart Part 6 without thinking about Stepping Stones.
I will say though, sidebar, do you remember when Kendrick and Eminem did that song together?
Wait, Love Game? Was that Love Game? Yes.
Yeah.
I like
that was
song.
A great song. I love that song. It's like,
do you remember?
Maybe the truth is, Kendrick, and that's the thing. Kendrick brings out good shit from Eminem. Like, and Eminem has, and that's, I don't want to talk about Eminem. I shouldn't have brought it up, but that's my frustration with Eminem, where it's like there's good shit there. It's just that sometimes.
Here's the thing. Some people might say Death of Slim Shady. Great album.
Is that you? Are you a Death of Slim Shady fan?
I won't say it's a great album. What I'll say is that I listen to it a lot. There's so many things that are wrong with that album. Don't get me wrong. That's a problematic album.
I will be taking my Kendrick vinyl and
that album has issues. That album, I think, it's on the wrong side of history. A lot of parts of that album. All right. But I will say it brings back that old feel, and I like the old feel.
For me, it's not even that like, oh, like these things were toxic. It's just, bro, the bars are bad. Like, and I hear the second half of the album's good. I ain't getting to that second half. That first half was trash.
This is what I'll say. Second half of the album, worse than the first half.
What? That's actually insane.
When he stops being Slim Shady, that's where I'm like, okay, I'm not listening to the album.
And the thing is, if I want, and that album actually was like one of the times on the internet that I felt like I was having a bit of a mental breakdown, because I'm like, you know what? I'm just not going to talk to anybody about this album on the internet, because I cannot handle people being like, oh, well, Slim Shady is a character. You don't think I know who the fuck Slim Shady is? I've been listening to Slim Shady since that album came out. That was the first CD I think we owned at all. And I know you're gonna be like, oh, how was that possible? You were fine. That's right. I was listening to that album when I was a child. I know so much Eminem. You will not Eminem-splain to me about Eminem. Anyway, but Kamikaze, I don't know if I like the album holistically, but there's definitely songs on there I really like. Like,
I'm with you.
So
I like Kamikaze a lot, actually. But yeah,
like,
we can talk about that.
In secret, I'm listening to Kamikaze, but that's so funny. It is never meant to use. Oh my god, that's so funny. That is Stepping Stones.
Yep.
Oh my god.
Death of Slim Shady.
Why would you ruin the Heart Part 6 for me?
I mean, it's so
you know
one
what?
for
I hope
one.
You hear Lizzie McGuire when you hear Hey Now. I hope you hear This Is What Dreams Were Made Of.
What Kamikaze is to you is what Death of Slim Shady is to me, where I listen to it in secret. I'm not like, I first didn't like that album when it came out. I was like, this album sucks. Like, I hate like a lot of what he's doing here. And then slowly I kept listening to it, and I was like, fuck, man. I kind of fuck with this, and I couldn't
Okay,
talk
Kamikaze
about it.
got some good tracks. The whole album might not be good. I don't remember. I have to re-listen to
But
it.
Death of
but
Slim
it's got
Shady?
a couple tracks. No, Kamikaze. Death
Oh
of Slim Shady.
no, I'm talking about Death of Slim Shady.
Yeah, no.
Kamikaze, most of it good. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, no. Death of Slim Shady. And I know sometimes like, oh, you got to give another chance. Like, no, Death of Slim Shady is the worst thing I've heard since. It is really bad.
Well,
Anyway,
let's circle back around.
What is your ranking?
My
of
ranking.
These tracks, your personal faves.
Damn, I wasn't even thinking about
ranking.
it. Okay, number 1 is gonna be Reincarnated.
Okay.
Number 2 is gonna be Hey Now.
It's gonna be okay. This is what dreams are made of. Okay.
Yeah. Number 3, it's just that beat is so fucking nasty. In the bass, there's like 2 to 3 different kinds of basses in that song. All right, Reincarnated, Hey Now. I'm gonna say Man at the Garden, my number 3.
See, I gotta raise Hey Now up. I think you kind of sold me on Hey Now, even though I don't like the "This Is What Dreams Are Made Of."
Number 4. Number 4 is gonna be TV Off.
Okay.
Number 5 is gonna be Squabble Up. Number 6 is gonna be Luther. Number 7 is gonna be Peekaboo. Number 8 is gonna be Whacked Out Murals. Number 9, Gloria. Number 10.
Damn, this motherfucker hit the Dodgers. That's crazy.
Number 10 is gonna be oh wait, did I say GNX already?
No.
Wait, okay, have I said Gloria?
No.
Did I say
I don't
Heart Part?
think so.
Did I say Heart Part 6 or Dodger Blue? I have 4 songs left somehow.
I think you said Heart. I thought you said Heart Part 6 already.
Oh, maybe I already said Heart Part 6. Okay. In that case, I'm gonna say.
Oh, someone said you said Gloria already. Okay.
Oh, I said Gloria already. Okay. In that case, I will go. Heart Part 6, Dodger Blue, GNX.
Yeah, this dude hates the Dodgers. This is crazy.
It's not that I hate it's just that, that song seems so like you have to be from LA to like that song. I mean, it's a good song, but it's so like it is like, oh wow, Kendrick, you really made a song just for your town, like just for your town.
It's LA bait a little bit.
Yeah.
But I will say, Bless, come through with me at Dignity Health Park, and when you hear a TV off in there, it's gonna hit different for you. I promise. Not that you're a TV off hater, but
we gotta find a car.
We can raise it on that list.
Here, the experience I want to have is listening to Squabble Up in a car that has subwoofers in it, because that must be a religious experience. That song has some crazy bass going on in it. But Janet, thank you so much for joining me here. It's been a very fun conversation. Yeah. This went way longer than I expected it to. I thought it was going to be an hour. We are an hour and 46 minutes into the record. We're about 2 hours into the stream. And so thanks for hanging out. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Yeah,
thanks for having me. I feel like this deepened my appreciation and understanding of the album, which I already liked a lot. So this was a lot of fun.
Yeah, if you're watching on twitch.tv/BlessingJr, thank you so much for hanging out. And shout out to everybody who's been subbing and following and all that stuff. I've been getting the alerts in my ears, even though you don't hear them. And if you're watching on youtube.com/BlessingJr, make sure to drop a like, make sure to drop a sub. Thanks so much for making this far in the video. And until next time, it's been my pleasure to serve you.